In this video, we're going to cover the process of performing the post-performance session. Once again, all sessions start by opening the Bladder Meridian, and you do so by following the opening and closing sequences that have been explained in all of the other previous videos. As in the previous video, I brought out the reference material that's included in your package to stress that if you need to refer back to it, do so. That's what it's there for. And it does become so much easier to be able to work without it each time that you complete a session. Now, as before, take your time to locate the required points when you start to use your torch. The torch that you do have has been chosen to make it easier for you to work with. In fact, you only need to get within the general area of the points shown in your reference material, and the beam of the torch is wide enough to distribute the energy that's needed. In the post-performance session, you're going to start at the front of the horse, and I always start with my torch turned off so that it doesn't startle the horse. You're working with an area that is a blind spot, and sudden flashes of light can startle your horse. In fact, if your horse has not had to contend with lights close to their eyes, there will be a learning curve, and I'll cover this at the end of the video. Starting at point 1, and you only need to hold the torch directly on that point for 10 to 15 seconds for it to be effective in the post-performance session. In this case, we needed to allow some time for the learning process, and I have left the torch at this point longer than normal to allow for the horse to accept and understand that the torch will not hurt him. Moving to the back of the horse is where point 2 is located, and it's where the front of the saddle makes contact with the area of your horse's withers. Moving further along the back, you'll come to point 3, which is where the back starts to rise and is located right behind the area where your saddle would end. This area is also where the loin and the croup meet and is about 6 to 8 inches in front of the croup, depending on the size and the breed of your horse. To move on to the next point, point 4, is just to move to the croup of your horse. The croup is actually the highest point of your horse's hindquarters and is rather easy to locate. Point 5 is located at the base of the major shoulder muscle, located just above the front leg and centered at the base of that same muscle group. This too is a rather easy point to locate and to access. Point 6 requires that our camera move to the other side of the horse for you to be able to see the actual point located on the inside of the leg. This point is situated halfway down the cannon bone on the front leg between the knee and the fetlock joint, and the torch is placed on the tendons of the leg. Here I once again tilt the torch slightly to be able to show you the location of this point. Next, we need to come back to the other side of the horse to continue on to point 7, which is located on the front half of the rear leg, being located more towards the front and once again at the point where the upper muscle mass starts to diminish. Moving on to our last point in the post-performance session, and that's point 8. Here again I've tilted the torch slightly to once again show the location of the point. This point is located just to the inside of the point of the hock. Now remember, normally you will not tilt the torch as I've done. In order for the torch to be most effective, you need to place the torch directly on the point and have no light showing. Once that you've done all 8 points on one side, you then need to do the same 8 points that are located on the other side of the horse. You'll also need to spend the same 10 to 15 seconds on all the points on the second side of your horse. After completing the sequences on both sides of your horse, you will then need to remember to close both sides of your horse following the proper sequence. That will then close the entire post-performance session. After you've closed off your horse properly, you are now able to allow your horse to use the session that you have just completed to help to supply your horse's muscles with nutrients, while at the same time helping to remove the harmful buildup of toxins, which will help to promote a calming and healthy recovery period from their physical workout. Here I want to discuss the proper way to introduce your horse to the use of the torch, especially if they seem somewhat reluctant to allow you to place the torch close to their eye. Remembering from earlier, this is a blind spot within your horse's field of vision, and any sudden flash of light at or near their eye will startle them. It is best here to be patient, caring, and consistent. What you have to accomplish is trust from your horse and helping them to be able to accept something new. I am sure that you've worked with your horse in the past and created that form of trust that's necessary to allow you to bridge that trust in the past. Remember, you need to be calm and reassuring, and at the same time being the one that your horse can trust. So until next time, this is Bob Burdekin from New Wave Therapy saying thanks for coming by.